Hi, everybody. I'm sorry to be late today, and I'm sorry I wasn't here last week, but we are about to hit the ground running. I need to get my Instagram going, and then we will start this Crushing Doubt live Q&A. Okay, Instagram, cooperate, please. Here we go. All right, welcome to Crushing Doubt's Q&A. It's usually most Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Today we're getting a late start because I was involved with a meeting that I had to be part of, which was a great meeting. But I'm glad to be here with you guys to talk about mind-body symptoms. I'm going to do a much quicker opening so that we have the full time to talk about symptoms. We are here to talk about mind-body symptoms. Those are, of course, symptoms that they aren't in your head, but they come from your head and become very real in the body. And the reason that I do this is that I had 8 years of chronic everyday or seemingly chronic everyday back pain and didn't think I was going to get better until I discovered the works of Dr. John Sarno. So when I answer the questions today, they are going to be within the framework of my system. The system of how I figured out how to figure out what is happening. How do I read what's happening in the body and understand the symptoms that are coming up, and what does it mean for my psychology, and how do I deal with these symptoms? How do we get rid of them? That is the goal. Your job, of course, is to bring the questions. There is no bad question. And I will take that question and give you the best answer I can. And then I want you to do follow-up questions, because the whole idea is if you change what goes on up here, that's what changes what happens in your body. So here's a quick overview of the system, especially for people who are new. I developed a system that was basically, it divides, if you took a sheet of paper and divided it into 3 columns, it would organize these 3 different kinds of mind-body experiences. And they are the emotions, doubt, and power column. The emotions is similar to what it sounds like. It's about your feelings. But these define the onsets and upticks in symptoms. So the goal of the emotions column is to recognize what less conscious emotional experience is leading to the symptom. If we can discover what that is, that symptom can vanish and we can manage acute onsets and upticks of symptoms. The doubt column is to deal with thinking. When we change our thinking, we can change how our bodies respond. If the thinking stays the same, we're just in the same physiology over and over. But if we change our thinking, we can break out of that. And lastly, in the power column, that's about your relationship with yourself. And a lot of times the symptoms want you to align with yourself. And if you're not aligned with yourself, they're going to get more active to push you to be aligned. Okay, that's the simple explanation. And I'll get into more of the details as we go. But as I answer questions, I'm going to be answering them in relation to those columns: emotions, doubt, and power. Let me say hi to a couple of people, and then we'll jump in. Neon Zetar, good to see you here. Rita, good to see you. Pam Special, thanks for coming here. Laura Brown, good to see you as well. We've got Patty Martin here. Thanks for joining us, Patty. Susan Sereno, good to see you. Actually, they're saying some things, so I'll put it up. Hi, Dan and the Crushing Out family and our group members. Good to see you, Susan. Let's see. Bridget Jones, thanks for joining us here. Karen Isaacs, I'll get to that soon, but good to see you as well. And Lynn Slavensky says, hi, Dan and everyone. Good to see you, Lynn. Dorisa says, hi, Dan and everyone. Good to see you, Dorisa. Okay, now Rita says, hi, Dan and Crushing Doubt Gang. Good to see you. Maria Llewellyn, thank you for joining us as well. I'm going to dive in with questions, and we'll get right to it. All right. Patty Martin says, Dan, I am reading the power column chapter as I write this. Your insight on how your symptoms guided you and made you the beautiful person you are inspire me. You really are a genius. Well, wow, you could make anybody feel good with these words, Patty. So I really appreciate that. She then said, thank you for sharing your story and your life with us. Thank you for that gratitude, Patty. And I'm glad it's making an impact. I do want to highlight one thing in what she's saying that I think is a good thing for us to hold on to together, which is that the way this system works is when you bring down your doubt, then you can learn about your emotions. And when you learn enough about your emotions, you start to recognize things in your relationship with you, and you can start to feel much more powerfully equipped in your life. And the symptoms did guide me in that. So the back pain was there, and it started with an emotions column event, but that didn't go on for 8 years. What went on for 8 years was the thinking that there was something wrong with my back, and the doctors couldn't cure me, and that nobody knew anything, and I was never going to get better. And I had 8 years suggesting that. So a lot of doubt in that. But when I read Sarno and things started to make sense, and I talked to Eric Sherman and got more answers, the doubt came down. And then I started to learn, it's not that I didn't know about my emotions at all, but I learned about my emotions as they related to physicality. And so the symptoms kept guiding me. And the more they guided me, the more I got to a place where I could recognize, you know what? I don't have to live my life around things that I hate and don't want. I can start to be in my own corner. And that's what Patty's talking about. The power column is these chapters that I have in my book. I have 3 different chapters on each column, and then I have 3 different chapters on the action steps, which means like the new ways of thinking, or maybe new ways of doing things, but mostly new ways of thinking that can help you address whatever problem is coming up and whatever the symptoms are telling us. So thank you so much for sharing that, Patty. I'm glad that you got so much out of it. It really was just incredibly interesting, even for me, or maybe especially for me as I went through it, to see how the symptoms brought me information about how to be fully me. Bridget Jones says, hi, first time here since seeing you on the Steady Coach. Happy to be here. Bridget, thank you so much for joining us. So I was on Dr. Yo's podcast, Yonit Arthur. She's fantastic. I was saying to somebody recently that it was may have been the best interview that I ever took part in. And it's because she was so attuned to what doubt does and to what the people she works with, the doubts that they have. And so she was asking very insightful questions. And really glad to have you here, Bridget. And do let me know if you have any questions specifically for me. Karen Isaac says, I listened to Dan's chat with Eddie Lindenstein. Loved it. That was another great interview. Really wonderful guy, Eddie, having been through his own mind-body experience. And we connected on multiple levels, including being dads of girls. We had lots of ways that we connected. Susan says, Patty, you are 100% correct about the book. And Dan, thank you. Susan and Patty. It's a beautiful love fest here, which I really appreciate. And then Lynn said, Patty, you did a great job sharing your story on the book kickoff. So Patty Martin was actually on my book launch to talk about the groups. And so why don't I pause for a second, just talk about some of the resources available on my website. The website is www.crushingdoubt.com. And on that website are all sorts of ways that I can help you in greater detail, in specific ways. And the basic things on the site, first of all, there is the book. The book is available on Amazon. And I do want to put in a plug for this. Everybody who's watching, if you've read the book and you haven't left an Amazon review, you don't have to. Nobody has to do anything. But if you're willing to, it helps so much to get the book visibility. When people see how many reviews there are, they're like, ooh, there's a lot of people reading this. So if you haven't left a review and you're willing to, please go to the Amazon site, whether you bought it on Amazon or not, and leave a review there. That's it. If you want to get a signed copy directly from me, you can get it at www.crushingdoubtbook.com and just order it from there, and I will send it straight to you myself. That actually also has an advantage in that you can get my teaching seminars for over 50% off. So let me talk about the seminars briefly, then I'll talk about the groups, and we'll get back to questions. The seminars are 8 sessions where I take you through all of mind-body experience, how to think about it. I introduce the columns, and it's just like, it's the most condensed but accurate version of how to think about these things. And it's like it trains you to be ready for the rest of the work. The book's fantastic in a different way. It's the most comprehensive resource I have, but we all know you read a book, you don't remember everything from it. It's an experience that washes over you and that you might have to reread it to get it. Whereas the seminars really nail it down right there. After that, though, whether it's the book or the seminars, you're set up now to come to the groups. The groups are similar to this Q&A, except they're so much better in so many ways. And I love this Q&A. But one of the things that can happen here is because the questions are being, just submitted in written form, I can answer the individual question, but I can't have the back and forth that I have in the group. We get so much further in one sitting with any one question because we get a much more precise version of the question by me asking questions of the other person and them asking questions of me. There's also a great supportive feeling in that group. It's just a fantastic group of people. And there's also an advantage to hearing or watching somebody go through a process with me of dealing with the columns without you being the one who has to do it. So you learn whether you're the one talking or whether somebody else is. All of those resources are available on my website. Again, it's www.crushingdoubt.com. And if you ever want to ask me questions about it, it's dan@crushingdoubt.com. that you can ask me questions about that. All right. So let's see. Pam Special on Instagram says, I'm struggling with sitting and conditioned responses. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm doing the seminars and join groups. Can you give me any tip? Well, first of all, I'm excited to work with you in groups, Pam. And the first thing I want to encourage you is, even if you've been doing this for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, however long it's been, I hate that you've been suffering. But one of the things that I like to share with people is good news. We're not going to do the same things you've done. You've already done those. And if you could have done these things yourself, you would have. So I have to bring you new information. And you're getting a lot of the new information in the seminar. But the reason that I created the groups, in addition to wanting to support a lot of people, is that when people do the seminars very frequently, they then need my direct help implementing the system. And so the first thing I want to tell you, Pam, is, other than the fact that I'm going to bring you different information and we'll do something different, is that when you come to groups, we are going to talk about these things in ways that get it implemented. So all you have to do is soak up the learning. Just ask the questions. There's nothing else that you need to do except ask the questions. And my job is to get these columns organized in your mind and in a way that you can understand, so that you'll see what the direction is. Now, I'm also going to give you more specific tips just now about how to deal with sitting and conditioned responses. So conditioned responses, what are they? These are the responses that our minds and bodies have to an expected activity. So if you've been struggling with sitting for 10 years, you're going to expect to struggle with sitting the very next time you sit. That's what a conditioned response is. What I want to encourage you, and we'll work on this in group to get into the details of this, but what I want to help you work on is, we've got to help you be thinking differently when you sit. So I often say, it does not matter what you do. It matters what you're thinking while you do it. So it's not about whether you're sitting or not. It's not about whether you have a conditioned response or not so much. It's more about whether you continue to have that conditioned response. So here is a tip. I'm not saying you're going to be able to do this right away, Pam, but it is a tip that you could try. You could try recognizing, what am I thinking? Because this is a doubt column experience. It's a thinking experience. I want you to think about, what am I thinking before I sit? Like, if you're thinking, this is going to hurt, that ramps up doubt. That makes you more afraid. I'm not saying it critically. I totally get why you would do that. And I used to do that myself. But instead of that, I want you to think something like this. I've never sat while challenging doubt, not even once. So I'm going to see what happens. It might hurt. There's another line I have. It can hurt, but it can't harm. You're not going to do any harm to yourself. So this is a new experiment. It's a thought experiment. And I want you, when you go to sit down, to think, if I'm thinking about it as doubt, this might actually feel differently. And very often it actually does, which blows the doors off of doubt right there. If you're not ready for that activity, though, you can also wait. Come to group. We'll talk about it. All right. But there's a tip for you, and let's see what you think. Neon Czar, thanks for saying hello to everyone. Do let me know if you have any questions. All right. Bridget says, I've been dealing with chronic dizziness for over 2 years. Makes sense that you discovered Dr. Yo, who deals with dizziness. It's extremely exhausting. It sure is. And I just find myself back and forth about this mind-body approach, since it's constant every day. Okay. Oh, then you have more to say. Also, to add, now I'm pregnant and symptoms are higher. Will this hinder any progress I've made before this? Okay, so there's a couple of questions in there, and they're good questions. So I'm going to answer them specifically. The first is, I go back and forth about this mind-body approach since it's constant / every day. One piece of good news that I at least potentially have for you, we'll have to see how it sits with you, is that I deal with symptoms that are constant every day all the time. And I separate those out from other mind-body experiences that a lot of the mind-body community says, think emotionally. And they're not wrong about that some of the time, but it's headed down the wrong path if it's constant every day. That's a doubt column issue, Bridget. So that would be about your thinking. It's not about the emotions. The emotions may have led to that onset, or they may lead to an uptick during the day or at night, whenever it happens. But the reality is, the reason it's constant and every day is you now believe, and I don't mean this critically or as bad news, but you would naturally believe that it either may not go away or isn't going away, or you don't know how to make it go away. These are all doubts. My job is to crack that for you. So whether it's in this Q&A, or if you get the seminars, or you read the book, or you come to group, the job is to crack that doubt and get you to believe that this is not something that you're going to be stuck with, and give you rationale for why you can get out of it. The reason you'll be able to get out of it is, and it's the reason it's been constant, is that you've had doubt. If we can get you, I'm just saying it hypothetically, which I know we can do it, but if you're worried you can't, start with the hypothetical. If we can get you out of having doubt, the symptoms start to shift. This is the way symptoms work every time. If it's an onset or an uptick, that's emotional in nature. Could be related to it could be in relation to a conditioned response, or what I call a doubt trigger. They're the same thing, basically. But most of the time, almost all the time, it's an emotional thing that causes the onset or uptick. The thing that makes it constant and every day is always doubt. And there's good news in that, Bridget, because it means there's only one thing we need to work on to crack the code and change this. And I'm going to leave you with one particular thought about this, and then I'll get to your question about pregnancy. When people have doubt, I have ways of dealing with that, but some of it is about actually looking at what's the actual thought that continues to keep going. And one of the reasons this is important is that no mind body symptom at all is actually chronic, even if it looks that way. I have a distinction that I make, which is it's not chronic. It is consistently acute. What do I mean by that? Consistent. It's always there. Acute could be made to go away at any given moment. Once we get you from the idea that it's chronic to that it is consistently acute, and you actually believe it, this is going to start to shift. And this is where my work can be different than with other people. So Bridget, you're new here, so I want to hear your thoughts about that. I want to hear thoughts whether you're new here or not, but especially when you're new here, voice the thoughts you have so you can start to get a sense of what this is all about. Now, Bridget said, also to add, now I'm pregnant and symptoms are higher. Will this hinder any progress I've made before this? Not inherently, no. There's nothing that will hinder your progress, except if doubt goes up and it never comes down. So Bridget, what I would say is your doubt goes up when the symptoms go up, it can make your doubt go up, but that's temporary. Everything is temporary. In the mind-body world, and one way that I have of thinking about this is that we are moment-to-moment beings, and that means we're never stuck with any particular thing. Okay, now let's follow up as needed. Pregnancy can lead to lots of symptoms, but it can also lead to lots of feelings, which can lead to lots of symptoms. So you may be having some upticks, which are emotional in nature, and I can help you recognize what are those emotions. That's a big part of what the emotions column is for, is to get some shortcuts between what am I feeling and what is it causing in my body. Okay, Patty Martin says, Lynn, thank you. It was so much fun being on the launch. I felt so comfortable with everyone on the panel. That's fantastic, Patty. And Patty actually, she came to the Boulder conference that the PPDA, which is now the ATNS, put on, and I spoke there. I will be there again this September, so anybody who wants to come, I highly encourage it. There are early bird specials for that conference happening right now, so please do check it out. But Patty, it was a joy to be there with you and to have you, and an honor to have you on the launch. Patty also was one of my original group members, so she bought in early, and I'm glad she's done very well. Okay, Patty says it really is a beautiful chapter, talking about the power column chapter. Thank you, Patty. And she also adds, I love crushing out groups. They really are very special. It's a special group. Even for me, I feel so supported there. So it's wonderful. Okay, Darlene, thanks for joining us here. Pam Special said, thank you. It sounds great. I often avoid sitting or activities that involve sitting. Look forward to groups. One of my jobs, Pam, is to get you sitting with total comfort, and you will be able to do that because this is a mind-body thing. You said I left you a comment in the group. Okay, so this is something I want to highlight. If you join groups, it's not only the group meetings. There's also this community site that you get access to where you can make comments, and in between sessions, I will answer those comments just for group members. So it's like having your own private Q&A that I answer pretty much all the time. And so, Pam, I will get to that comment, and I'm glad that you have joined us. Can't wait to work with you. Okay. Lynn Slavensky says, if you have an uptick in symptoms, how do you clearly distinguish between it being a doubt trigger? Okay, hold on. Oops, doubt trigger and an emotional uptick. Okay, this is really, it's a great question. This is one of those ones that, like, in group, we'd be able to get much further because Lynn's got questions. I have questions about what she's thinking about, and we could get even further with whatever we look at. But I'll give you my first answer, Lynn, and then, of course, we'll do some follow-up. So one of the ways that you can recognize when an uptick comes from an emotion, which is usually going to be the case, or whether it came from a doubt trigger, which is an experience in the environment that could plausibly make you have a symptom. This is my first answer, and really probably the best one that I can give, is it really depends on what happened in the moment of the onset. So right when it happened, I want you to think about what was happening. If there was no apparent trigger from the environment, then it's not a doubt trigger, and you can go looking for the emotion. But let's say you started to not feel well and you had just eaten something. That could be a doubt trigger, especially if you were thinking, ooh, I don't know if that was past its expiration date. That's a good kind of doubt trigger. Or, oh, I started having shoulder pain right after I was shoveling snow. Basically, if there is an environmental aspect that could have led to this and you were actually thinking something about it, which sometimes it takes some thinking about to see if you were, then it could be a doubt trigger. Otherwise, it's going to be emotional every single time. So, if it's something where, like with sitting, that Pam was talking about, or in your case, sitting as well, sure, that could be a doubt trigger if it's about the experience of that moment. So you just want to think about the moment involved, Lynn. Was there something that you were thinking about that scared you as an experience? And if so, that's probably a doubt trigger. Otherwise, it's emotions. Lynn, let's do some follow-up on that as needed, okay? Okay. Lynn Archer Nestor, thank you for joining us here. Please do let me know if we have any questions. We are talking about mind-body issues and my system of how to deal with that, which is called the column system. And we can talk about it as needed. Darlene had a question. Lots of progress and then big freeze symptoms. Any tips to get out of this? Okay, first of all, I always tell people, make sure to count your wins because they're very, very strong weapons against doubt. So the fact that you've made lots of progress already, Darlene, that's a good thing. That's great. The fact that there was big freeze symptoms afterwards, that's what I call a roadblock. It doesn't mean you had lots of progress and then lots of failure. That's not what's happening here. You had lots of progress and then a roadblock. And one of the things that the column system is so good at, and me in implementing it, is recognizing what is the impasse of the moment and how can we get past it. So this is just a speed bump, even though those speed bumps can derail things if you're not aware that that's all it is. So tips to get out of this. The first thing is reframe it if you need to, that this is not a big deal. This is a sign of a roadblock. It's a sign of something we need to understand. So Darlene said, Monday was great. Today crashed. The way that I think about this is that if Monday was great, what does it mean for Tuesday? What it usually means for Tuesday is that there's a lot of pressure on Tuesday. I hope it will continue, and that's a doubt right there. Doubt creeps its way in. So we've got to get you past a certain threshold, Darlene, where you can believe that Monday was great, and that doesn't mean that Tuesday is going to be hard. It actually means Tuesday's more likely to be good because now you're developing the ability to have great days. It doesn't mean Tuesday will be great, but it means you're developing the ability to have great days. And if you can think about it that way, then doubt has less room. Now doubt is stuck in a position. Sorry, I want to take that off the screen because I'm dealing with a different question. Now doubt's in a position of playing defense. It's aware you're already having good days. Sure, you could have a bad day. Everybody has bad days sometimes. Think of it as a moment-to-moment experience, Darlene, and recognize that these gains are really, really big. So tips to get out of this. What I would say is if you don't buy into the moment and start having doubt, you'll naturally get out of it anyway because a new moment will happen and you'll just get right out of it. The only way you don't get out of it, I'll put in quotes, is if doubt gets you worried and then you start spinning in it. So don't worry look, I'm not saying it's pleasant, but don't worry if you have a difficult day at some point. And instead just think about the fact that you are making progress and you're going to continue to make progress. Okay. Then Darlene added, onset was the friend's baby in critical condition. Whoa. But that could be a trigger to me to cause symptoms. Well, it could be a trigger, but it also could be an emotional experience that really set you off. It's a big deal. So when a big event happens, cut yourself some slack and recognize you're more likely to have symptoms on that day. And it's not going to stay that way. The only way it stays that way, Darlene, is if it gets you into that doubt cycle. So you just want to think about the fact that as long as you don't buy into the doubt more, there's no reason that you're going to stay stuck in it. It's just a bad day. And then you can start to use the emotions column to process or become aware of what happened. And further, you could move to the power column and use that emotional awareness to decide, how am I going to help myself? Here's a good example. When you have a bad day, maybe there's like a favorite movie that you like to watch and you say to yourself, you know what? I need extra care today. I'm going to watch that movie. Or maybe I'm going to take a nap, whatever that is. And you're going to do some things for you that put you in a better relationship with you. Okay? So Darlene, I'm sorry about your friend's baby. I hope that everything ends up okay. But you got to take care of yourself and not get into doubt. That's all you need there. Okay? Now, by the way, this is another advantage of groups. I'm there to provide that reassurance on a more regular basis. So please do let me know if you have any questions about any of this. Shelby Geyer, good to see you here. Me again, Dan. How do we know? She says that because she checks in with me about some doubts frequently, and I'm happy to help her with that. How do we know for certain it's mind, body, and nothing more? Probably a question that has an answer of crush the doubt, LOL. So yeah, the basic idea is crush the doubt, but let's talk about how, because if you could just do it, you would. One of the things that we're working on, Shelby, is to get you to a point where you don't need to look at this anymore, where you're just like, I've looked at this enough ways. The people that I trust are telling me all these kinds of things. I actually do need to be able to put this down. I need to be able to say, I don't need any more certainty. It's like if you drop something, it's proof that there's gravity. But imagine if you just were like, well, but what about, is there gravity right now? I better check again. You're never settled. And the reality is, when it's true from so many different angles, that's when you feel like you can put it down. So it's convergent evidence, more evidence that shows this and how ridiculous the doubt idea is, the more you can just say that's it. Now, Shelby, I'll add one thing to this. Almost all symptoms are mind-body. So the chance that there's anything going on with you that isn't mind-body is actually approaching zero, just naturally, let alone with all the information I have on you and your experience, and that you have talking to Becca Kennedy and other doctors in the mind-body field. You have a mind-body issue, and that's it. But it does not matter what I say or even what I think. It matters what you think. At the same time, at a certain point, you get to decide who to trust. I remember saying at one point after I read Sarno, I was struggling to like give up some back stretches. And I said to myself, do you believe this or not? It was like, I was tired of dancing around myself about it. And I basically made a decision. I'm going to just trust this, and I'm not even going to let myself call it into question anymore. So Shelby, I would say make the decision that you're not going to do this anymore. You're tired of going around in circles. There's no reason to go in circles. And you're going to make the decision to trust the people you know you can trust. Okay, let's see how that goes, Shelby. Darlene says, thank you. Makes so much sense. Groups are great. We'll be back when I get some things resolved and finish my columns draft. Can't wait to work with you again on that, Darlene. Very much looking forward to that. Bridget Jones says, thank you for answering. Crying happy tears because you just confirmed it's possible to be okay again. It's more than possible, actually. Once you get doubt down, it is definitively going to happen. So it's not just possible, it's going to happen. Now, she says, but yes, I have a lot of doubt. I can feel so confident one week, like I got this, and then I lose that hope and start doubting again. My struggle is staying consistent, I feel. So actually, Bridget, the way I just answered Shelby is a very important aspect of where you're going to get. Shelby has been working with me on this, and her doubt is down overall at certain moments, but she can't make the decision to say, I'm not looking at this anymore. I have decided. Once you've looked at it enough, you're going to get confident that you can do this. So one of the reasons that I do these Q&As and why I do everything that I do is because I know what it's like to be that person out there. And I just give everything I wish that had been there. So one of the things that I wished had been there is somebody who could just be there at my side in some format as I worked to get the doubt down. And I can be that person for you, Bridget, in whatever format. And most people need that. I kind of, I don't know if I consider myself lucky or if I feel like it was one of my strengths to be able to organize it in my own mind. But I sure did wish that I had somebody with me to walk me through it. And I can do that. So staying consistent becomes much easier when you've got somebody to support you, but it also becomes much easier when you have a system that helps you to understand each and every moment. So you don't get thrown off the scent or confused, because doubt wants to get you confused and knocked backwards. With a system, it doesn't happen. Okay. Patty Martin says, going to the conference last year was a power move, using the power of aloneness. It felt great to do this on my own. So the power of aloneness is a concept I have in the power column, which is, we usually think of aloneness or loneliness as bad things. Loneliness is a bad thing, but we often think of aloneness as a bad thing, when really there's a freedom in the fact that we are alone in our life, because not that we're always alone. We have connections, but partly we're alone. And the good news about that is it means nobody gets to decide for us. We get to decide. And she used the power of aloneness to say she was going. And next thing you know, she and I were sitting at a table next to each other in real life, talking about things. And it was great fun. Thanks, Patty. Okay, Russell Crane says, hey, Dan, working on a doubt right now. Have had on and off pain from pull-ups that I experienced while doing the exercise, but which I never had before. It's a movement my body has performed so much. My logical mind says TMS, which is what Sarno called mind-body issues, tension myositis syndrome. But my only doubt is that it comes on during the exercise. That's just a doubt trigger, Russell. So doubt will use anything it can against you, and it will use things that are plausible and seemingly logical. And this movement was that. But here, I'll tell you this. This is for Russell, and it's for everybody. There's literally no exercise that you would do that actually causes an injury. The only way you get injured is if you get twisted around in violent ways, way out of whack with what it's supposed to be, or with like great torque and speed. Russell, that didn't happen. This is just a movement. None of these things can harm you. Using science and logic, I'm telling myself that a movement, especially one I've done a lot, cannot harm me, and that's exactly correct. The thing that can go on, though, is we are emotional beings, and doubt looks for a place to weasel its way in and combine with some emotional need that we need to hide, and that's when it strikes. That's all that happens. So I would immediately, if you can, push doubt to the side and start thinking emotionally. Why then? Doubt triggers are meant to be swept aside, to be like, I'm not buying it. Nope. And then we go straight to the emotions column. Russell, let me know if that makes sense to you. Okay, Shelby says, you're the bomb, Dan, my favorite Midwesterner. Thank you, Shelby. I really appreciate it, especially because you live in the Midwest. So you know a lot of people in the Midwest. But it is great to know you, and I'm a big fan of the Midwest myself. Okay, Maria Llewellyn says, Dan, my original pain has improved dramatically. Fantastic. But with new stressors, tingling in feet, numbness, and twitching of the muscles came. I have previously had multiple MRIs and nerve studies are normal. I assume this is mind-body. Thoughts? Thank you. This is 100% mind-body. It's behaving just like it, Maria. And not only that, you've even had the tests to show that that is the case. One caveat I want to give to everybody, just so that doubt doesn't creep up, is that you can have tests sometimes even that reveal something. Reveal, I'll put in quotes, when really the mind-body community knows how to interpret those things. So I rely on the MDs in the mind-body field all the more, because when you go to a doctor who's not mind-body informed, I say you have to put on your doubt armor, because they're going to say all kinds of things. Now, fortunately, nothing was worrisome at all in any of the findings. So even more idea that this would be mind-body. Maria, what usually happens as people are getting better is something that Sarno called the symptom imperative, where you get better from one symptom and then doubt is like, okay, can I try this symptom instead? And it just tries out something different. And so it's trying out other symptoms. to see if it can get a foothold. I can't believe I just said foothold about the feet, but I did. The puns and the metaphors, they all apply to mind body stuff. This is mind body. I want you to start treating it like that. And what you're going to find is I can actually chase symptoms like out of different parts of my body until it's just like, fine, can I just have a little itch on your shoulder? And I'm like, fine, you can have that, but you can't have more than that. If I don't want a symptom, I'm like, no. Even if this is really interesting, guys, but if there are times where I have something going on emotionally or I have doubt up at a certain level and I can't get rid of all of my symptoms in that moment. But here's what I do. There's certain symptoms I will not accept. I'm just like, nope, try another one. Nope, try another one. And then I'm like, oh, okay. A little itchiness on my elbow. I'll take that. Okay. Oh, a little bit of fatigue, whatever. Sometimes those things are too much. If you don't like the symptom, work at it. It'll go somewhere else. And then eventually it just goes away altogether. Okay, Lynn Archer Nestor says, hey, very excited to join live. Great to have you here, Lynn. Met you and your work through the wonderful Caring Steady coach, Dr. Yo, practicing awareness for doubt and notice when it's power or emotional, ready and resonate with you. That's fantastic, Lynn. This system I found, I had to develop it myself to organize myself in this experience and to feel like I could get better in the way that I needed. But bringing it to other people, I found that one of the things that really resonates with people and just feels so good is just being able to understand all these different moments very, very clearly. And that's what I'm here for, Lynn. So keep the questions and observations coming. Annie loves Lucy, by the way. Thank you for joining us here. Good to have you here. But Lynn, keep your questions coming. And I really encourage people, keep coming here. If you're not ready to take the seminars or join the group, this is a great way to just find out more about it. I do have a podcast as well, which I'm going to have new episodes coming out in the coming months. But there's all the old episodes are all up there. There's all kinds of information. Meanwhile, my book is a great way to get the information fast and in a cost-effective way. It is available on Amazon, or you can get it on my website, www.crushingdoubtbook.com. That's the direct link for the book. These are great ways to get the resources. I'm also going to put in another plug here. I didn't know I said it before, but if you have read the book, and particularly if you got it from Amazon, it's very, very helpful if you can actually go and leave a review. It doesn't even have to be super in-depth, and I do want it to be honest, though I do prefer 5 stars if we can get it, because the rating really does help. So please do consider doing that. Okay? All right. Lynn said, I've had awareness practice for some time, so it all makes true sense. That's fantastic. This is going to make more and more sense of things that you already knew. We're going to have a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up for today. Warren Henson says, hi, Dan. After the call yesterday, I realized how true it is that every time I'm close to a breakthrough, I lose the thread of the thinking. Honestly, I'm a little discouraged with lots of pain today. All right, Warren, here's the thing. I understand why you could be discouraged, but I'm actually super encouraged because we discovered something really important about how doubt is disabling your progress. And that means there are steps beyond that. And guess what, Warren? They are not even steps you have to discover. Because you are in group, I will have ideas about it. And so think about it this way, Warren. What's happening here? I labeled what doubt was doing. And it was like, he's on to me. I'm making Warren lose the thread of his thinking. So you know what? I better make him really discouraged, and I better raise his pain, or else Dan is going to win this battle against me. And you know what? Doubt is right. I am going to win this battle. It is screwed. What I want you to recognize is, look at what happened. There was a progression. I made an observation about a doubt, and then it moved to a different doubt. That's exactly what doubt does. One of the reasons I can help people so much is I know exactly how doubt works. So Warren, I get it, but your discouragement is not actually a feeling. It is a feeling, but it is not only a feeling. It is a doubt. Even the raised pain is related to doubt. All right. So we're going to work at this. Come to group and we will work on that. All right. All right. Bridget Jones says, are there any reasons why it may take someone longer to heal? I've heard some recovering in weeks and others years. Yes, there are different reasons that some people could take longer to heal. But the reason, the way that I like to think about this First of all, even the term healing can sometimes make people feel doubt because you don't necessarily need to heal. We need to change the thinking. And I'm not trying to pick on the words, Bridget. I'm trying to be helpful with that. Making that distinction could already get you to a place to get ready for relief faster, to get closer to that successful place. So one of the reasons people take longer to heal is the language that they speak to themselves. If we're saying scary things to ourselves or we're taking in scary things from the outside environment, it slows down the thought process of believing we can get better faster. So I have a podcast episode actually that is called Getting Better at the Speed of Doubt. It's all about doubt. The people who get faster, better, their doubts come way down. When I read Sarno, my doubts came down very fast, but I've had other mind-body symptoms where my doubt did not go down as fast and it took a lot longer. So let's keep talking about that. Patty Martin says, seminars are really worth it. Thank you, Patty, for that support. Shelby Geyer says, my doctor's appointment tomorrow has me so anxious, so over Western medicine, but I have to go. Any tips, Dan? I hate that it's a trigger. So when I talk about putting on your doubt armor, Shelby, here's what I want you to think. This doctor can tell you about life and death stuff. And other than that, they're really not going to know much. And it's kind of important to, Western medicine, they mean well, and they actually are super, super helpful in a number of ways, but they also have certain problems. And especially around the issue where you're having doubt, just don't listen to them. Me and Becca Kennedy, we know better. Howard Schubiner knows better than this doctor. So this doctor can tell you if you're going to die in the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, they can't tell you much of anything. So we can even talk about why you have to go at all. But if you feel like you need to go, put on your doubt armor and don't trust what they're saying. Okay? Darlene says, and we're going to wrap up on this, guys. Are freeze symptoms handled differently? If you do the columns, how do the symptoms know to leave? So freeze symptoms, they're handled the same in a way because all symptoms are the same. We analyze them for when they come on. That's an emotions column event. But the one way that freeze symptoms could be different is that they are what I call a trauma response. And in the power column, that's where we work on trauma issues. They're not handled differently in a way that they're outside of the column system at all. It's just they'd be worked on in power more. If you do the columns, how do the symptoms know to leave? The symptoms leave when you address the symptom function. When you take away the distraction, the emotions column symptom is needed. When you take away the need for protection that the doubt column thinks is there, the doubts go away, the symptoms go away, they break up. When you receive the communication of the power column and you understand how to align with yourself, then the symptoms go away. We just have to address their function. Okay, Warren says, thanks for the encouragement, Dan. My pleasure, Warren. I've got plenty more where that came from. That's a big part of what I do. Okay, guys, it is a pleasure being here with you today. Next week, I'll be back at the usual 6 p.m. time, 3 p.m. Pacific. Again, you can go to my website for all of these resources, www.crushingdoubt.com. You can get my book there. You can get my book on Amazon. Please do leave a review if you're open to it at all. That's a big help. And I look forward to talking to you. Keep your questions coming. Okay, Lynn says, loved. I assume the experience here. I hope so. And please come back as needed. Ask your questions. Do not stop until your questions get answered. And I will answer them to the best of my ability the first time, but we'll do follow-up as needed. Okay, guys, it is a pleasure. I will see you all next week, and keep up the good work.